Do you hear Matthew McConaughey is? No, that was a while ago. Never mind.
What's up, guys?
Lots of evil hacking things.
And good things. There's good things this week. Listen, viewers, there's good things this week.
Yeah, but good things from you means bad things
That's
for everyone
right.
else.
I don't know how to
usually,
take that. I don't know how to take.
I don't know how to take that. Yeah. So you mean good for normal humans or good for Dwayne?
I mean for you normal humans.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
That's good
For us
Well,
dark
that's good.
humans, it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing.
So how about patching? Microsoft patching.
Microsoft patching.
Microsoft patch. I feel we harp on patches a lot, and that's because it's
Very
important, kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Patching saves you from the bad people.
But what was interesting about Microsoft patching is that the number kept going up, right?
You know what's funny too is not only does the number go up, but the CVSS scores, the score that rates how
Keep going up.
how dangerous the exploits are, keeps going up as well. Started off at like a 7.8, and then it's like no, it's an 8 something, and now it's like 9.6. That like it's like the Richter scale. Once you get to 10, I think the internet blows up. So 9.8 is pretty high.
But this one goes to 11.
So for people who don't know, Microsoft has on Tuesday, it's called Patch Tuesday for Windows. So on Tuesdays, they basically send out updates. And so that's why when you come into work on Wednesday morning, you might notice that your computer has rebooted.
Right.
And yeah, that's why. So the first article that you posted, Dwayne, was from April 12th. And the headline, Microsoft April 2022 Patch Tuesday fixes 119 flaws and 2 0 days. And if you've been paying attention, 0 days are ones that nobody had discovered. Like, yeah,
Previously unknown.
previously
Yeah.
unknown.
And some of these are really, really bad.
Yeah.
Well, but then there are other articles that say it's 128. And so the number keeps going up, but it was only one patch. How could the numbers go up?
Well, I think I might have it because the first article says it fixed 119 vulnerabilities, not including 26 Microsoft Edge vulnerabilities.
Yep.
So I guess Edge is not considered a Windows vulnerability because it runs everywhere.
Yeah, and because they adopted Chromium as the core of Edge, my guess is it's not really a Microsoft thing. I don't know.
But that really only brings them to 125.
Well, and you know what's funny is I saw some quotes, I think, from the Akamai blog. I'll have to look for the link that said 200 and change. So
Okay.
anyway, it's bad, people. It's bad, but good.
Bad.
Yeah, those are
Bad.
dog
There's a lot of
vulnerabilities.
fixes, right?
But it's good because
One
they
might be
patched
said
it.
They did, and you know what's interesting is as you dig into these patches. First off, there's a couple in here that are really super dangerous. So I know we talk about patching all the time,
Mhm.
but there are some times where we call the Security This Week Nation and say, "Hey guys, you really do need to patch this." And it's
All
rare,
12
you know,
of them.
right? I'll name them. So it's like, you know, Log4j, hey, you had to patch. Spring for Shells, yeah, you had to patch. This week, you have to apply your Microsoft patches. There's a couple 0 days in here, not to get into too much technical detail, but one of them is an RPC over SMB, RCE. Wow, that was a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you give us the download PDQ?
Okay.
Someone once told me not to put a glass of H2O on my CPU or my PC could be DOA and I'd be SOL PDQ.
They would be right. So oddly enough, this one is rated, I think the CVSS score currently is 9.8, although it may go higher. And the reason being is over the SMB protocol, which is how Windows computers talk to each other for file sharing.
Yeah.
That protocol has a 0-day critical flaw that is being seen exploited in the wild.
Oh my God.
So that is why it is such a high score. B, the exploit is also what's called wormable. So it doesn't crash the PC it exploits. You can run code on there and then branch out from that code and run and attack another system. So there's concerns there too.
So you can zombify it.
Exactly. So we all remember oh gosh, what was it? The NIMDA virus, or I think it was that, where it just wormed all over. Same type of thing, right? Where you'd be really concerned that this thing may continually worm out.
Wow.
The other reason that you know this one's super serious is the people who announced it, who are tributed with the 0 day and telling Microsoft, is the NSA.
Wow.
The NSA went, hey guys, there's this really nasty thing we're seeing. You may want to patch that. And that's rare.
By the way, we're sorry that we took over the source code of Windows and completely infiltrated every one of your users and spied on them. Yeah, by the way, that's all water under the bridge, but, we're going to throw you a bone here and tell you about this thing that's
Listen,
not
we've
us.
been using this one for years, but it finally leaked out, so we think you should patch it now. I think that's the standard NSA line.
Except you, Brian. You leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Brian.
You don't patch it.
My friend Christian Weyer from Bavaria, he told me in an interview once after that whole NSA scan, he said NSA stands for no security anymore.
For a long time that was true. I mean, before all of the Snowden leaks and the leaks of all of the tools, your blue keeps and all that good stuff. Yeah, the NSA had access to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, they didn't cause me any problems, I don't think.
Nah.
Except I don't know why I keep getting these weird magazine subscriptions. I don't know. That's another. that's another story.
Because you keep saying NSA on your podcast.
Yes. NSA is actually the name of a market up the street. All right. So is that all I'm patched. My computer rebooted on Wednesday, and
if you get people to do one thing, there's a lot of things that are at the top of that list, but there's lots of people who would argue that one of the best things you can do is just keep everything up to date and patched, because if everything's up to date and patched, then passwords are still a big vulnerability, and 0 days are a vulnerability, but 0 days aren't common. Most people don't have access to a 0 day to use against you. And, but the vulnerabilities that people do have, it's the stuff that's patched.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd say if memory serves me correctly, Patch Tuesday they released a patch, and then I think they immediately released another small patch on Wednesday. So, and now it's all bundled in. You won't even notice it if you weren't patching to the minute that they released the patches, you wouldn't notice anymore. But this one's serious enough for them to actually break protocol and put another patch out.
So if you run Windows, go to the search bar, hit the Windows key, and type Windows Update or check for updates. Make sure that automatic updates are on. I remember I used to not keep automatic updates on in machines that I was using for recording. Like if I'm in the middle of a session, I don't want it to reboot, but I don't think that happens anymore. Just like you're using Windows and poof, it just reboots.
Well, and a lot of people will the other excuse people use for not automatic patching is they don't want to deal with the inconvenience of if a patch causes unfunctionality and
unfunctionality. You know, and I'm going to use that term now when I deliver code. Hey, this code is unfunctional, but it'll be functional at some point.
Few more prefixes would be good. Undis non-functional.
Historically, there have been some patches that have caused problems for systems and broken some things, but that's not very common.
Right.
And and ransomware is far more disruptional than that. So it's just not worth it anymore. It's better to have to restore from backup to fix over a patch than to try to restore from backup because you got hit by ransomware.
But now let's also take this, I don't know, now it's probably like 400 issues fixed patch and this critical CVSS score of a bazillion. Let's take that and just put it into perspective. The very serious parts of this patch are fixing an exploit against SMB, which is for all of you TCP IP nuts, that's port 445. So Windows communications happens over a networking port, which is 445. That communications is typically only on the local network. So if you have a firewall and you haven't done anything weird to it, you're probably okay from the internet, right? However, I say this with a little asterisk. Right now, Akamai put out a blog saying, hey, just to see how risky this is, we decided we would scan the internet for port 445 and see what responds. And they came back with 729,536 responses.
Oh,
wow.
I thought it would
awfully
be
specific.
in the tens of millions.
No, yeah, I know, right? 730,000, if we round up a little bit, is a lot.
It is.
But chances are not all of them are Windows servers, right? Some of them might be like, Linksys firewalls with storage attached or whatever. It's not a protocol designed for the internet. So frankly, there's no real reason for there to even be 730,000 on the internet. So that's where we come out with the warning of, listen, you really should patch, because you could be one of those 730,000. You just don't know that you opened a port on the firewall for somebody to access some files or whatever and left it open. So,
well, and it's a way for hackers to pivot once they get past the firewall through some other mechanism. It leaves a place for Dwayne to go and get his footholds on other systems. Not to name names.
Well, yeah, it's good you bring that up. I actually got asked that this week. Like, hey, listen, I've been listening to all this security stuff, and people talk about pivoting and they talk about lateral movement. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And Patrick's absolutely right. If you have an exploitable system, let's say you double click on a piece of ransomware or phishing, or comes in and you click on a link,
by the
and
way,
your
don't do
local
that.
computer gets breached. Yeah, by the way. Pro tip.
How many times has Dwayne told you? Anyway,
unless you get an email from me, then you should always click on everything I send.
So you do something stupid and you get breached.
Yeah, so the risk here is A, yeah, your computer get ransomware, but B, they could leverage some of these other 0 days because you didn't patch and move around your network, move laterally, move from your PC
right
to your corporate laptop, from your corporate laptop to your company when you bring it into the company, that sort of stuff. So that's lateral movement and or pivoting around a network.
By the way, we're going to put up a blog post of sort of the, Patrick and Dwayne's top list of do's and don'ts for security. We'll put that on a blog at AppVNext, and I'll just come up with, how about this? I just come up with a URL right now, stw.appvnext.com, appvnext.com. How's that?
Like it. Awesome.
Yeah. We'll just put that up there. Okay, so I think we've spent enough time on Windows. Make sure you're patched. Make sure automatic updates are on. Let's talk Apache. What happened with Apache this week? You know that Apache, the web server, is not named for a Native American tribe. It was called Apache Server. Patchy, and I'm not kidding about that. Go look it up.
Are you serious?
That's where the name Apache came from.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So patch Apache.
Yeah, patch. Always patch your Apache.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one in that Apache is pretty prevalent. It's a very lightweight, small web server.
Yeah.
Listen, with any of your internet-facing devices, there's always going to be a chance of somebody being able to breach something.
Right.
Typically what happens is you build a web application and you didn't put secure code in there, and that's how the site's breached.
Right.
You typically don't want it to be the infrastructure itself, but in this case, it was Apache struts. Just there's an issue there where you can actually exploit it, run any code you want, so you want to be careful and patch that.
I think Apache is the most common web server in the world.
It used to be anyway.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. The cloud might be taking that over, cloud servers, but some of them might run Apache as well.
That'd be interesting to see what the stats are on that.
Okay.
Either way, it's out there a lot, and it's in a lot of devices.
Right.
There's a very popular container-based web server out there that people use in their containers all the time. And don't even get me started. This is just the latest goo for developers to publish web servers that they can manage quickly and easily. But it's not Apache. All right, so what's next? Oh, I love the old Gremlin.
Who doesn't? Hey, do you remember Gremlins, the movie that was horrifying when I was a kid?
It was horrifying. I was a teenager, and it was horrifying to me.
You know what's horrifying is I was not a teenager. I think I was an adult. And so that makes me old.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I mean, people brought their kids and stuff, and then the very first scene is like gremlins in a blender and blood splattering everywhere. Everybody's laughing their butts off, and these kids just absolutely crying.
Bawling. Yeah. Yeah, I remember thinking, hey, we should show the kids this. And then I was like, what am I thinking? No, this is a terrible movie.
It is a terrible movie.
I got to wait till they're adults.
All right, so Old Gremlin. What's Old Gremlin? I know it has to do with Russia, because Russia is run by an old gremlin, actually.
It does have to do with, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a satire.
Gremlin. Old Kremlin.
Wow. Wow, Patrick. Before you dig yourself any deeper, so Old Gremlin is the APT name for a ransomware group.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting about this ransomware group, there's a couple different things interesting about this ransomware group. One, they only target Russian businesses. Two, they're highly skilled. The article that we have talks about them being actually very advanced.
As opposed to those stupid hacker groups that are morons that don't know what they're doing.
I thought we were done talking about Conti Group.
Oh, all right. Hey, I'm not associated with these two guys. If you want to, I know that side.
I don't know. Just to call a hacker group highly skilled implies that the rest of them aren't. You have to be pretty elite with your hacking to get into a group, don't you?
So I will say
to lead a group, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of strap hangers.
Hey.
Well, and there is, but there's also a lot of low hanging fruit on the internet. I'm going to throw that out there. Like there are some pretty brazen emails that say, hey, this is an executable, double click on it and open it and run it. And when it says that you shouldn't run it, say, yeah, I want to run it. And people do, right? So how advanced is that team? Not really advanced. They just more socially manipulate people.
All right. Okay.
So actually, if we go back to if you go to Hack the Box, Hack the Box, a great corollary. We see teams on Hack the Box that typically have one or two superstars. Sure. And then they might have 11 people who are also Rands. They're along for the ride. They're the hired help. They're helpful and they're learning and they might become the superstars. But there's somebody, like Snowscan or somebody like that that's really pulling the team. And a team that has two or three of those people, they're unstoppable. But you really only need one to be, top tier.
Well, and ransomware groups are similar, right? They need one or two really good, coders / criminals.
They need a Dwayne and a Patrick, and then the Carls are just along for the ride. The Carls are the also ran.
Carls.
The guy
Carls.
that they say, hey, push this button, and the Carl goes, yeah, okay, I'll push that button.
So there was once, I can't remember the name I can't remember who it was, but there was some, I think it was information stealing software. I can't remember which one it was, but their leader was killed in the Ukrainian conflict.
Wow.
And because of that, it's changed the landscape. I don't have that article handy. I'll see if I can find it. But, that's an example where the person who was killed was probably the brains of the outfit. And because he's gone, they're done. They shut down operations. And so there really is a strong sense that a lot of these organizations have one really strong person and everyone else is, trying to keep up.
So, in this article, security researchers at Singapore-based cybersecurity company Group IB say that this time Old Gremlin impersonated a senior accountant at a Russian financial organization, warning that the recent sanctions imposed on Russia would suspend the operation of the Visa and MasterCard payment processing systems. Isn't that true? I mean, I thought they were all suspended anyway.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a brilliant tactic. Because you with ransomware, to get someone to click on something, you're usually not like, hey, there's this really cute, cat video, go click on this. Although that works.
In America, yeah.
Yeah, in America. But you typically, what you also want to do is instill some form of pressure, right? Some sort of urgency. Right. Why should they click on this right now?
Right. So while they're in a state of freak out and they're not thinking clearly, they'll push the button. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, this is a great tactic and very timely and worded very well, at least looking at the translation here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the translation. It's pretty convincing.
All hacking is emotional manipulation. You're trying to get somebody to social engineer them to do something they shouldn't do.
Whoa, back that off. I don't think all hacking is emotional
all social engineering is.
Well, most
I'll take that.
And most of the hacks are socially engineered. I mean, that's
correct.
People are the most vulnerable backdoor to a hack, right?
Right. Agreed, 100%. I mean, the wetware is easier to hack than the hardware. That's for sure.
Wetware.
I for one welcome.
That's how us hackers think of the people behind the keyboard.
Oh, I love
the wetware.
I for one welcome our robot overlords.
I could tell you how close they are to taking over. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one in that it does show there are some really advanced teams attack. We always talk about Russian ransomware groups,
right? They're getting
beating down the doors everywhere else, but they get hit occasionally.
They're getting their comeuppance now. Yeah.
So good for them.
Okay, so speaking of stealing money and stuff, there's another story here on Bleeping Computer. $620 million in crypto stolen from Axie Infinity's Ronin Bridge, which I thought that was a bar in Dublin. I don't know.
It's a Ronin Bridge.
Axie Infinity's Ronin Bridge.
True.
You can get a good point there.
Ronin.
You can get a good point. Paradigm shoes.
The Irish people are like, what is that accent, honestly?
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. I'm sorry.
Listen,
Lord,
we're near
apologize.
Boston. We got some Irish.
I apologize.
So I don't understand this. So the interesting thing about this article is $620 million worth of Ethereum and USDC tokens have been stolen.
Yeah.
Right now, this is the largest cryptocurrency theft in history. Right now. So interesting from a historical standpoint.
Now, I got a question. Is the Ronin Bridge an exchange, or was it stolen out of somebody's personal wallet? Like, did somebody who had their money in the exchange lose it, or did the exchange lose it?
I think there are victims here, because I think what the Ronin Bridge does is it allows people who play this game or work with this game, Axie Infinity, to move money in and out to do things.
Yeah.
They say they didn't discover the hack until somebody tried to remove 5,000 Ethereum from their account. I just don't understand how you would put that much money into a game account.
So there are a lot of really interesting things in cryptocurrency, and one of them is there are actually games you can play now where you get digital properties that actually have value to them that you can then trade and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into this particular one. So it could be that. It could be people put money in and then play around with it. It actually looks like a game where you're playing with the blockchain. So it's kind of an interesting concept. But here's the crux of this hack. If you try and look at how cryptocurrency works, so with cryptocurrency, there's not one exchange. There's not one person who says, yes, this is a valid transaction. Right? There has to be a consensus, and there has to be multiple people who agree on a transaction. Right. So you may have, out of 1,000 people, maybe 200 people need to agree, yes, that transaction happened. This person should have taken that money. Right. In this particular case, there was only 7, if I remember reading correctly. Nine transaction evaluators, and the hacker compromised 5 of them.
4 of them by the game and 1 by a third party.
Right. So that's an impressive hack.
Which no one thought they could do.
Yeah. So if you compromise at least over 50% of the transaction validators, you get to validate any transaction you want.
You outvote everybody.
Right. You just say, hey, that money should have come to me. And then the 4 real ones go, no, it shouldn't. And the 5 that are hacked go, yeah.
That's true of Bitcoin. There were some concerns before China nipped Bitcoin in the bud, which, by the way, they did because they banned coal imports from Australia and they had energy problems, which is the biggest reason they probably took down Bitcoin. But that said, at the time, China was mining so much Bitcoin, there were fears that they would break 50% and they would become able to then manipulate the blockchain.
Oh, wow.
If you control more than 50% of the nodes, you control everything. You can write the script any way you want. You can steal it blind. Now, it's so big, people think, well, that's not going to happen. But if you get a country like China that, allows it, and this is one where they only had 9 evaluators.
What else are they going to spend all their money on energy for? Right? I mean, lights, people, food. Who cares about that stuff? Patrick and I were talking about cryptocurrency in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago. And Patrick, you said something to me that was really, really jarring. And you said, blockchain and cryptocurrency is great, but all it takes is one hack and it's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
One really good
one
hack.
0 day, one vulnerability that we don't know about. Now, we've been waiting for the same thing for RSA forever.
Yeah, sure.
So it may never come. And there's lots of things where we rely on them every day and they're built in everything. And if there was suddenly a vulnerability there, we'd all be in really big trouble. That's probably the second biggest area. First would be RSA. Quantum's going to take care of that in about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And the other is something like blockchain, because again, if there were a 0 day suddenly that allowed a bad agent to go and rewrite the blockchain any way they wanted, it would be game over. It would be worthless.
All right. Now I want to clarify a few things that Patrick just said there, because it might have sounded like you just parachuted into the Star Trek Enterprise and you're talking to Jody LaForge about the Freem drives and the blaster crapsers. RSA is a way that you can use generated tokens to secure data in transport, a private key and a public key.
And it's widely used
everywhere. The benefit of using RSA is that it's for short things. It's usually used to send longer security keys, which can then be used symmetrically.
It's a way to share keys in public.
Yeah, but you don't you don't reuse the same RSA key every time. You only generate a new one. All right. So what he's talking about is that right now the longest keys take a long time to decrypt.
It would be 1 trillion years for a classical computer to break RSA 2048, for example.
And when he said quantum, he meant quantum computing, which promises to be able to do these things instantaneously. Pretty much.
All at the same time. In different dimensions, which we won't talk about on this particular podcast.
I don't think we have rights to the Twilight Zone music, but it would be appropriate here.
It would be.
It would be.
Inserted in your mind.
So quantum computing is something that we're going to be hearing more about. It's probably too deep for us to get into here, but
because hacking is a light topic.
If we have a slow news week, maybe we can talk about quantum computing and the risks.
People think that quantum computing is going to make all this stuff obsolete and there'll be no security because we can just, generate these things and crack them so fast. But you think about it, you can also use quantum computing defensively. What if you're changing your keys every millisecond or something like that?
Right.
Yeah. There's something called quantum key distribution that will actually help. And NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, is coming out with recommendations for new encryption standards to replace RSA and some of the other algebraic difficult encryption algorithms to be geometrically difficult. Things like lattice encryption. Again, probably too much for us to get into right now.
I just had a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich, actually.
Where the lattice was lean.
When the mutton's really thin.
Billy Crystal.
Okay.
So you don't explain those jokes, just my acronym.
I don't have to explain that joke. It's just dumb.
Wow.
And you laughed.
Wow.
An MLT, a mutton, lettuce, and tomato with a mutton's just really thin.
Okay. All right. So RAID forums. What's that? Or what was it?
Oh, this is good. RAID forums is a dark web site where you could buy things that you shouldn't be able to buy.
Like human beings and drugs.
Yes.
Yikes.
Drugs, human beings, weapons, assassinations,
human
things
beings?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slavery.
Tracking? What was it?
Human trafficking.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, trafficking. Yeah.
It's a bad place. And Silk Road was the first really big one that got shut down. And now RAID forums is shut down. They arrested a 21-year-old administrator from London, or in London. He was not from London. And this is just the reason we want to talk about this is because the dark web is a game of whack-a-mole. We'll keep knocking them down and we'll keep building them up again. And we just got to keep shutting them down. But the bad guys find a place to do their transactions. And the only way you know about this is to talk to someone who knows about it. And eventually
it's just not good.
It gets out and a narc comes in and it's shut down, but then they'll spring up somewhere else.
Well, and the interesting thing about RAID forums is always specialized in hacking data.
Yeah.
So a lot of the breached data, for example, massive companies get breached and usernames and passwords get leaked and that sort of stuff.
Social security numbers.
Yeah, it'll end up on raid forums. Literally active connections to companies right now. Somebody breaks into a company, break into, name company here. You go to raid forums and you say, hey, I have access to Ford Motor Corporation. Here's how many, user accounts are there. Here's how many PCs, blah, 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 whatever, who wants access to it. And then raid forums is a great place for you to be able to sell and buy them.
So the U.S. shut it down.
Yes.
Does Troy Hunt have the data?
I would bet he has most of the data. This is also one of those identity theft trafficking places. So I don't think Troy really deals in that as much, but some of the other dark web databases do.
He just deals in usernames and passwords.
So let me back up a little bit. There's a bunch of products out there. Let me back up a little further. There's a bunch of people in our business that have done what Troy has done privately for their own use. So we even have a database with billions of credentials that we've built. And there's also products you can get access to that companies use to figure out where their data is and what their data is. Mm-hmm. And so there's a number of them out there. They're very expensive. They're typically tens of thousands of dollars a year to get full access. And some of them are very selective. You can only get access to your data.
Wow.
It's a fairly wide gambit. But suffice it to say, some of these products will actually have people in these forums pretending to be bad guys so they know what's out there and they can warn people.
Wow.
Troy doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Troy worries about like the breaches that get out in the wild that can be put into a database. But I don't believe Troy's out there and, pretending he's one of these freaks.
Yeah.
Pretending to buy data, which is good because he's got better things to do.
And if you don't know who we're talking about, just Google Troy Hunt.
Yeah. You'll find Have I Been Pwned, which if we haven't said it in a while, it's a great resource. You should put your email address in. Troy's very reputable, very good. He's not going to use anything against you, but he will share with you any of your data that's been in these breaches that he's cataloged. And it's good information so you know which passwords of yours you shouldn't be using anymore. Raid forums down. We'll see what the next one pops up is.
Yep.
But that's an example of the dark web.
All right. Dark web, bad things. Raid forums, very bad hacking things.
Nasty, nasty, nasty. All right, one more story, and this is from April 9th, Associated Press. Accounts deceivable, email scam, costliest type of cybercrime. Well, we certainly knew it was the most prevalent type of cybercrime, email scams. But
yes.
Costliest, is that just because there's so many of them?
Yeah, it's volume.
Yeah, it's volume and it's also access. Email scams or what they dub the, what's the acronym they give it? BEC, Business Email Compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So business email compromise is if I were to compromise a user account at, Microsoft.com. And then I emailed, from somebody's account and said, hey, we should change our accounts payable to pay this person over here, or we just signed a new contract with this person or whatever. Now, I'm sure Microsoft has a bunch of checks and balances, but if you take, say, a small public school district, break into one of the people's emails there and send an email to finance and say, oh, by the way, all of our, health care deductible payments need to go to this new place. That's what happened here. So now you're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars just getting deposited in the wrong accounts.
Yikes.
Has nothing to do with being hacked, or we talk about ransomware a lot. Ransomware, some people pay, some people don't.
Yeah.
And the payouts are usually not huge. In this case, we've seen time and time again businesses lose sometimes millions of dollars. And there are a couple school districts near us that lost $1.2 million, if I remember correctly, because they paid the wrong contractor, and same exact thing happened.
Yeah.
Business email compromise.
The biggest thing is if somebody calls you up or somebody emails you and says, hey, our banking data has changed, that's fine. Call them and get a verbal, because most of the time they'll say, oh, yeah, I sent you that email. Why are you calling me? Well, just to make sure you sent it, not somebody else. But occasionally you'll get I didn't send you an email. Our banking information hasn't changed. And then it's like, okay, I'm glad I didn't pay this new bank.
Yeah.
And that sometimes let's say that your accounts payable, if I can get in your email, I can find out who you're paying. And then I can spoof an email as them with the exact same terminology, the way they sign off and everything, copy it and say, oh, by the way, our banking information, can you change to this account at this bank? And you're just going to do it. You might even pay me twice before you notice. Because you're not going to notice until that vendor says, hey, when are you going to pay us?
Right.
It's not only prevalent in business to business transactions, it's also prevalent in business to consumer transactions. So be careful. There was recently, and I think it still goes on today, is a real estate scam where you go to buy a house and you're in the middle of working out your contracts and that sort of stuff. And the real estate agent sends you an email saying, okay, great. You got to deposit the money for the escrow in this particular account right now, blah, 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 whatever. And it's somebody broke into their email and sent an email out to all of the clients saying, hey, by the way,
if that $40,000 deposit on that house gets put in the wrong account, no one's going to reimburse it.
Nope.
I've bought 2 houses in my life, and both times I sat down with the lawyer in a room with a physical check and handed it to them. And that's what you have to do, folks. Don't ever, ever answer an email to put money in an account ever.
But Carl, it's so convenient.
That's right. What could go wrong?
Hand them a check.
Yeah.
I have a great way to end this show. I don't know if you guys listen to This American Life.
Yeah, I haven't heard
I know of it, but I don't listen to it.
All right. So they talked about this story, and this is from 2015, 2016. This guy in Seattle who was dubbed the Bike Batman. He basically got into the habit of looking for in the classifieds or on Craigslist for bikes that were for sale. And he'd find bikes that were, because he's a cyclist too. And he started because he was looking for a bike for his wife. And he saw this really shady looking bike. Well, a picture. The picture was shady. It was taken at night. It was kind of blurry. And the bike looked like an amazing, really high-end bike. And they were only asking like a couple $100s. So he's like, yeah, I bet this is a stolen bike. So he goes to this website called Bike Index. And it's at bikeindex.org. And if you go to /stolen, it's a registry of stolen bikes. So what you do is you put your bike picture in there and you give some details and all of this stuff, and you can look it up. People will look it up. So he would look up these bikes, and sure enough, the first one he found was the one that he wanted to buy was stolen. So he actually went to meet the guys to get it back, and he wasn't thinking, what if these guys have guns and stuff, right? Turns out there was 3 of them. 3 people there. And he gets the price and all that stuff. He goes, excuse me for a minute. He picks up his cell phone. He dials 911, but the call wouldn't go through. And but he faked it. He said, well, guys, this is a stolen bike and the cops are on their way. And one of the guys just bolted. He just ran like hell. But the other 2 guys were just standing there. Maybe he's calling his bluff or whatever. And after a while, the guy said, well, clearly we're at a stalemate, so I'm just going to take the bike. Like big cojones, right? Mm. He was a tall guy. And he found the person on Facebook or something who had said something about her bike being stolen. And he texted her and messaged her and said, hey, I have your bike. She's like, what? Wow. And he got addicted to this kind of, Robin Hood, Batman kind of thing. Like, he said the feeling when I just gave it to him, she's like, well, what can I pay? He's like, nothing. No. He just got addicted to doing this. And he said,
that's crazy.
He did it about 20 times before he finally gave it up.
I don't think bike criminals are hardened criminals.
No. They said the last one that he did, it turned out to be more than just a bike heist. It was a full-on robbery. And and they had, tons and tons and tons of stuff. But he had gotten some support from local law enforcement by then. So what I would do in that situation, depending on what the gun carry laws were in that state. Oh, here we go.
Would be if you could have a GoPro or have a recording device that streamed to the internet automatically so that you didn't have to upload anything. It just like live stream.
Yeah.
and
Twitch
just say,
it. You just twitch it as
you go talk to the guys. You go to them and say, hey, just so you know, I know this bike is stolen, and I've been live streaming this conversation.
Yeah. Oh, hey, let me take a good look at your license plate right there. Yeah.
That's
okay,
right. So you can why don't you just Diddy Mao and go away now, and I won't bother calling this in. But if there's any trouble, then understand this is going to be a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got to have backup.
That's the Patrick Hines school of vigilantism right there.
Right. Right.
Got to do it right.
Well, anyway.
Or bring a gun, Patrick. Yeah.
You don't bring a knife to a gunfight. That's all you do. You want to not bring a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, I'm surprised this guy wasn't jacked, the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, ending on a good note this week. So take care of yourself and, don't click on emails.
See you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.